Maria mentioned passion. Well, that's what I want you to think about today, is passion. I want you to think, what is it that you are passionate about? Besides your family, we all know we're passionate about our families. But besides that, what is something that goes deep into who you are, who speaks to who you are? So I want you to think about that passion as I talk to you today a little bit about my passion and why I'm so passionate about it. My name is Cindy Gilreath, and I work for Comcast. I have the great pleasure of working every year on Comcast Cares Day. Comcast sponsors this event every year. It is the largest single volunteerism day in the country. We volunteer with organizations in our country and internationally as well. And that's been a very exciting addition to what we do here. It's the opportunity that we have to give back to our communities, to help the communities with projects that we can accomplish in one day that they couldn't accomplish in many years if they had to do it on their own. So I'm going to tell you about one of my favorites. In 2012, we partnered with a group called Clayton Early Learning. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that group, but it was originally started by George Clayton over 100 years ago. George actually started this on a 20-acre campus, and it is a beautiful location. The buildings on that location are historic red brick buildings. The trees are huge and stately, and it's just a wonderful place where today you see children run and play outside. It was originally as an orphanage for young boys, but over the years, Clayton has become an early learning center for grades K through 3. These are for low-income children. You know, we learned when we went there the first year that the average family income for one of their students for a family of 4 is $20,000. I want you to think about that for just a moment. Imagine having to feed, clothe, provide transportation, provide educational needs, medical needs, anything else that you would have for a family of 4 on $20,000 a year. Could you do that? I'm not sure I would do that very well. So initially, the Clayton team was really overwhelmed with the thought of our 450 volunteer workforce coming to their campus. They had never done any kind of projects like this before, not any community events. And truthfully, how could they? Their budget was strictly for supplying funds for their teachers, that very small staff, and to provide a very nutritious meal for their children every day, along with all the educational supplies that they might need for those children. They just were overwhelmed. They had no vision. They didn't understand what a force 450 could be to accomplish great things in a single day. Well, they were so overwhelmed that they actually didn't think they would have enough projects for us. They also asked us, could we please remove some of the volunteers? They needed to reduce that head count. But we didn't. We helped them understand what we were there for and that we could work through this time. And you know, the day came, all the projects were assigned. Everybody had a lot of work to do. It was a very warm day. I can still see that day. It was very warm and very labor intensive, the work that we did. We planted over 40 trees. We cleaned the inside of buildings and painted. We laid sod. We built a playground for the children. It was an amazing day. It was one where we were so tired at the end of the day, we really weren't quite sure we could get up out of the bed the next day. My favorite memory from that day, actually, is our CFO for our division. Remember I said that it was very warm that day. So all these teams of people were spread across that 20-acre campus. And he took a wheelbarrow and he loaded it with water bottles and he pushed that wheelbarrow all across that campus to provide some water for very thirsty people. I've never forgotten that vision of him doing that. So the day came and the day went. And when we were finished, even though we were all exhausted, the smiles And the gratitude of the family and the staff of those folks made us all know it had been a very good day. Well, in 2013, Clayton asked us to come back again. Only this time, it was very different. This time, they had a plan. This time, they had a vision. They understood the impact of a force of people that were eagerly waiting to do something good for other people when they got together and what they could accomplish. And they were ready. They knew what they wanted us to do. And one of the things that they asked us to do that year was to build raised garden beds. Thought that was a little odd, but they had a plan for that as well. You see, the folks at Clayton Early Learning Center and all of the homes in that community surrounding them, they lived in what's called a food desert. Are you familiar with that? I wasn't. It simply means that within a 5-mile radius of that location, there is no grocery store. And you remember that that's a very low-income family area, so some of those people had to use public transportation and had none of their own when they wanted to go grocery shopping for their families. So a local chef who had become very successful had decided that he too wanted to get involved into community projects. And he had heard about the food desert situation. So he partnered with Clayton, he and 14 other chefs, and in September of that year, they hosted the very first ever annual Harvest Moon fundraising event. I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. And let me take you back to that night. It was a beautiful, clear night. The moon was bright and it was hanging low in the sky. There was a slight breeze blowing. Can you feel it? It was ever so light. The trees were rustling, the leaves were rustling in the trees. There were twinkling lights that flowed from one tree to another. The 15 chef tables were strategically placed in the shape of a crescent moon. Then the dining tables were located in the center of the grounds. And all of those tables were dressed very elegantly in white tablecloths, flowers, and beautifully lit candles. You know, Clayton had expected 400 guests, but that night they had 800. Again, a little overwhelmed. The people who were there, they walked from one chef table to the next, taking and sampling of the fare that the chefs had prepared for them on those tables. The fares that they provided, the specialties that were cooked and prepared by those chefs, were the herbs and vegetables and the fruit that had been harvested from the raised beds that we had built in April. It was a sight to behold. At the end of that night, we had the wonderful opportunity to chat with the chairman of the board for Clayton. And she woke us up to what we had done in reality. She said, you know, this never would have happened if it had not been for Comcast and the very first Comcast Cares Day that you guys did in 2012. She said, we didn't believe in ourselves enough to know that we could take on any project like this. And she said, after seeing the impact of the things that had been done there, they knew and they believed that they could become involved as well. So even though we changed and went to a different, very worthwhile organization this year, Clayton was very strong. And they've continued and they've moved forward as a force to be reckoned with in their community. You see, they held again the second annual Harvest Moon Festival fundraising event this past September. You know, and what they're trying to do is to bring focus and knowledge to the work that they're doing in the school and then to the food desert situation there in their community. They want to bring awareness to organizations, to corporations like Comcast, and to individuals just like you and me at the good work that's being done there, and that we can all be a part of something that's much bigger than we are. So I will tell you that every year in about February, it's getting close to time to start planning and thinking about Comcast Cares Day that starts in April. I always go, oh, I wonder where we're going this year. Wonder what the projects will be. Wonder how many volunteers we can get. And then I'll back myself up and I'll go, oh, I'm not too sure. I have too much going on this year. You know, maybe this year, because we're really working on a transition with this merger with a new company, I shouldn't be involved. I've got a lot to do. But truthfully, I can never step back because it is one of my dearest passions. And so I ask you, what is one of your dearest passions?